Well, hello. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend, and I hope your Monday wasn't too bad. I usually cannot stand Mondays, but I've been pretty busy today, so I couldn't really not stand it. Like, it was a bit entertaining to say the least. So, thank you all for being here. Thank you for my mods who are showing up. And based on today's Monday, let's put up with no BS, okay? Yep. We'll just put up with nothing today. I'm in a no messing mood, you know. All right, here we go. So look at that banner and everything. I got three lovely. I don't know if lovely is the word. Let's just say interesting or updates to give you today. All a little bit different. Juju, I'm with you. I love to do nothing. And by the way, go check the comments on our video. I think you'll be pleased. I think you'll be pleased with a couple of them. Yeah. But it is good to see everyone. I see that, Fish Nerd. I didn't even need to be hitting the head. Look at that banner running and everything. Ain't that something? Not a bad way to start the week. Had a wonderful stream yesterday. For anybody listening, if you didn't catch it out, if you want to hear us like talk about nothing, which turns into something, and then sometimes is everything. A lot of laughter, good spirit. Check out Sunday's stream. It's turning into be the best way to start the week for me. Um, I know, Juju, you're going to have to just wait a minute because, like, you're going to want to hear this. I'm going to start. Yeah, let's just look at our thumbnail. Here we go. We got three hummadingas for you today. We've got Samuel Bankman Fried, who was recently on trial for like 15 days, and the verdict came in. We got Courtney Clenney, our OnlyFans model, Courtney Taylor, $1 million OnlyFans, on charges of murder for her boyfriend, or Christian Obemsuli, and she's pleading not guilty. And then we've got Duane Davis, who is Keefe D, is his nickname, gang, who has been charged with the murder of Tupac Shakur. So why don't we get right to it? I'm going to start. Let's start with the Tupac Shakur. Okay, now this is very old, 20 odd years at least. Tupac's been gone a long time, and there are only two survivors of the occurrence that caused his death, which was the fatal shooting of Tupac Shakur. There were four men in a white Cadillac, or a white vehicle. I don't know if it was a caddy. I'm thinking definitely it was, but just in case I misspoke, I'll put that little disclaimer in there. But Duane Davis, Keefe D, leader of the gang, the opposing gang at that time, is the only survivor in the white vehicle. In the black BMW that had Tupac Shakur in it, it also had Suge Knight, who's in jail on another charge right now, and the only survivor of the black BMW. Suge Knight has already come forward and said he's not going to be testifying against anybody or saying anything to anyone. And so there's that. But unfortunately for Mr. Duane Davis, and I'll just bring you up to date, he's indicated in Nevada at the Clark County grand jury, almost 30 years to date, charged with one count of open murder with use of a deadly weapon, with the gang enhancement, because he was leader of the gang at the time, and so that was his crew in the car. Gang enhancements. This happened in September of 1996, the shooting death of Tupac Shakur. He is the only alive occupant. Yes, it was a Cadillac. There you go. The case remained cold for decades. Okay. Recently, it's been Duane Davis's own words that have convicting him, because you do not have to pull the trigger to be convicted of murder in most states. So that if you have supplied the murder weapon, as certain testimony that he has given out there to the universe by via of interview, a book, or questions and answers, he has said that he provided the murder weapon. He may not have pulled the trigger, but he was actually running the retaliation against Tupac and Suge Knight in a counter gang mission for some abuse he felt was done to his nephew, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson was long suspected to be the actual shooter. Mr. Anderson is no longer alive either. All right. We had an arraignment that was canceled in October. Okay. It was delayed for 2 weeks because Duane Davis was unable to secure his attorney. There's a lot of talk about financial problems. He was talking, and actually outside of the jail, but not in court, was Rob Goodman, a very famous Nevada attorney, kind of represents mobsters as his father did before him. Both his father and his mother have served as governor. They are very well connected. It's a very big law firm. He does some really large, famous cases. And, well, that would have been a good attorney for him in this, because Rob Goodman came out before the last delayed arraignment and said that there were some great options for defense. And he was speaking to the public about it. Okay. But here on November 7th, this is our update for Duane Davis, Mr. Keefe D. He did not have Rob Goodman in there with him. So the judge, as she indicated back at the first canceled or rescheduled arraignment, said, if you don't come forward with an attorney representing you, I am going to give you public defenders. So she assigned Robert Arroyo and Charles Cano, who right then and there took the cases, said okay, and they actually went forward and started work right away. He was able to enter his plea of not guilty. Okay, but he is still being detained until a bail decision. He's been denied bail right away. However, these public defenders have already conferred with Duane Davis and have decided to petition to have him released on bail because he's not a threat. Okay, with all his mob affiliation, with all his gang, rather, not mob, but gang affiliations, he's admittedly controlled that area for so long. Yeah, he might be retired. I mean, do you actually retire? I don't know this process. I don't know a lot about it. But apparently he's not active anymore. And he's got money troubles and nobody's really paying attention to him. And the reason he did these interviews was to make some hay based on just the eyes that are on the case. The fact that it's not solved, the fact that Tupac was so famous, it's a big deal. And so he says that that's why he did it and made his money, but it doesn't necessarily have to be true. However, we know that the FBI did, in the Nevada police have actually investigated and actually raided a couple of his places, and actually were looking for evidence of his interviews and things like that, and that they feel they have enough to prosecute. They're not going to be seeking the death penalty, though. Okay, that was asked by the judge right away. And during that hearing, Mr. Keefe D spoke up and he says, and what does that mean? Because she asked the question. He said, what is this? Like, he said it right out. And she explained to him that they asked the prosecution right away in charges of murder, right, that if they will be sitting, because the prosecution has to come forward and let them know if they are, because time frames, it does weigh into the decision. One of the decisions being, well, what if the defense asks for more time to prepare? Well, of course, if it's a death penalty case, she's going to be leaning a little towards giving them enough time, having been such a thing. They are going to seek a life sentence, if anything, going forward with that. But she also set a trial date for June 3rd of 2024. So this is definitely moving forward. There's been a couple of videos on it. Let me just drop you some links. Hold on. Mr. Keefe D was he was still foot shackled. The picture that I am using is from the first canceled arraignment. However, the pictures that I have seen from the arraignment and in these videos, they are actually going to be he was shackled at the ankles in his hands. Here's an article with more in depth on it right here. But I did think I do have the actual hearing. Hold on one second. No, I don't. But it is on Court TV, or it was Law and Crime. The actual arraignment was there. I will have it in the description for you. But here is the Sun article with more details as to what's going on. He is going to go forward with the defense. Um, he has been a confessed drug dealer. He wants his application for bail to be heard. It should be heard within the next 2 weeks. These public defenders are going forward. There is no information on whether he will be able to acquire the money to hire Rob Goodman, who is interested in his defense and has been putting motions. I don't know if he will work with these public defenders or not, but it seems to be the only reason that the case could not be taken is because he couldn't afford it. He said a murder case like this is going to be expensive, and I guess he's not cutting any deals. But I do find the irony delicious a little bit. I want everybody to get a fair trial, okay? But the fact that this man, after all these years, can't afford a good attorney or have connections enough to hire a good attorney, and needs to use the public defender system, well, it just shows you the crime. It doesn't pay, not in the long run. Mm-mm. So now his whole livelihood is at stake. His defense for the bail is that he's no longer in criminal activity at all. He's not a flight risk. He has no money to go anywhere. He can't fire. He also has health concern. It is his up and down actual struggle with what he says he's battling colon cancer, and that is what made him speak out as much. So we'll have to see how that goes. But it's going to be heard by Judge Carly Kearney. That is the judge presiding at Clark County for her this trial. And she did keep her word as to when the 2 weeks came up. She wasn't playing. You either have an attorney or I'm giving you one, and away we go. Okay, so that is that. All right. Just some faces for you to remember. This is Steve Wilson, Clark County DA. You may have seen he did do a press conference right after the hearing. He was all suave out there talking about they will not be going for the death penalty and explaining why, the length of the case, the age and the physical condition of the defendant should he be convicted of guilty. This man is 60 years old already. And pretty much they're just because they don't actually, in a death penalty case, for what they have to prove, you could see why a jury might be lenient with an older man where they can't prove he pulled the trigger. He's admitting to supplying the weapon and being in a situation to order, so to speak, in a gang enhancement charge that is being thrown at him. The attack on Tupac Shakur. But he's not the one that pulled the trigger, and anyone, you can see where a jury might back away from actually putting him to death just for being there. But then some people might stick to the letter of law and say guilty of murder anyway, like you facilitated it, so off you go. But he's not going to press it. He's going to go for life imprisonment. That's what he said. Remember, this is Ross Goodman, okay, who is not hired. He's not hired, just did not have the funding. Did not have the funding. That is the reason he's not there. I don't blame him for sticking to his guns, though. It's going to be a long case. But the other thing that, in regards to this case, that I would say is it's moving along quite quickly. To have it on the docket already is quite good for a trial. We do have public offenders, and this is after 2 times the arraignment was actually rescheduled. So the arraignment has finally happened. He said he fully understood the charge against him. She didn't even have to read out all the charges. He said, well, that he did. The only question he asked was, why was she asking about the death penalty? And it might have been startling for him. And I can understand to hear that. But she did give him a very good explanation that they do ask everyone, So there we go. Hey, Christola. Hi, Mrs. Cassandra. Thank you guys for being here. Hi, Shill. It's good to see you. Everybody else who came in the meantime that I didn't get to say hi personally to, thank you for being here. But I think I'm just going to look for questions. Yeah, I thought he was going to use the mob lawyer too. The mob lawyer, if you remember, spoke, Juju, he spoke for him outside of the court, even though he wasn't in there to represent him. So I thought for sure they were going to get that the money together, and that it was going to be, that's what was going to happen. But apparently the money didn't come through. And I don't know how they work that with how do you retire from a gang? Apparently you don't get a very good pension plan. Just saying. How many criminals say I am still a criminal? None. None. But he did, because he was making money on it. Like, that's just the whole thing. Like, he was actually making money giving these interviews and all, and that's kind of why it's in the hot water. If you remember, we were talking about a proffer agreement at one time. He did give a statement to federal government in regards to what held on, but that doesn't stop the state from prosecuting. Apparently there's some confusion on whether that proffer was with the state or the federal government. It depends on who was there. Like, there could have been state officials there, and it might be why certain media outlets that will actually remain nameless are saying that it's in violation because, of course, there was like a state agreement. Well, they could have been there, and the agreement could not be with them. It could be with the federals, the FBI agents. I mean, come on. It's just kind of crazy. I guess we will find out in the court documentation and the filings, but that's where we are with that one. Liam says a smart DA not trying to prosecute overreach, unlike the one for Sarah Boone. Exactly. I kind of appreciate not going for the overreach here. It's almost 30 years old. This is like, this 27-year-old case. I mean, come on. Like, it's going to come to trial before it hits 30 years old if it stays on track. I say if he does use these public defenders, it's going to stay on track. If he brings in Ross Goodman, if he finds the funds, well, it could get delayed. It could. Yep. I wish it wasn't so far away, but it's actually close considering how it could be. It just got a rain today in November, and they're looking at June already. That's really not that bad. I look at Boone, like she's like 3-4 years out. This is horrible on her. Yeah. Well, this one is moving quite quickly. The second one I have to talk to you about is Samuel Bankman Fried. And I'm just looking through to see if there's any more questions. Hi, Sleet. Thank you for the song. Is this going to be his defense? Not guilty by means of being a big mouth braggart. Basically, that's what he's saying. Like, I was just bragging for money. Like, I think that's where the defense is going. They haven't actually said it in those terms, but they are saying that based on his illness and the situation he's in, they only have his words about this. Nobody else. I mean, let's look. They have no corroborating witnesses. There's nobody from the car left on either side. Shug's already said he ain't saying anything, and I don't know if he would actually defend him anyway. So, there's going to be nothing except his own words and testimony, I think. But like I said, we don't know until we know, right? It is what it is until it ain't. That's how it goes. We got to wait till we get inside that courtroom. We got to wait to see those filings. We have to wait to see what actually even gets entered into evidence. He did stop mentioning Diddy, but there are plenty of media sources, Mrs. Cassandra, that are still linking Diddy's record company and everything in there back and forth just because of the crossing of the two different gangs. And I don't what do I know about gangs and things like that? I don't know how they do things. I just know two functioning groups were against each other. There are all kinds of multiple ties. There are famous names getting thrown around all over the place. But basic basically almost all of the evidence that we have seen in articles and from the actual prosecution statements themselves is basically based on Duane Davis's own words and actions. And it's pretty bad when you're the star witness against yourself. It was like definitely Mrs. Cassandra, a West Side, East Side, two different record companies with gang affiliations of some type, an altercation that happened at a fight. It goes on. It was definitely not related or related to the music industry. It's really hard to tell because they do have rival companies. It was pretty heated at that time. There was a lot going on. It's just it's a shame it has to get to that point. I think, but Tupac has been gone in 27 years, and we are now about to have somebody actually faced for those charges. No one else is alive to do it. So we'll see how that plays out. Well, if you guys don't have... Yep. 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 I know, Cristola, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. Like, he doesn't have the money to get an attorney, so I don't really know how this is going to play out. That's what they say, bad boys for life, but look where it got him, 60 years old, no money to hire an attorney, and ran his mouth, and he's up for murder, Yep. A lot of evidence floating around out there. I believe there's a lot of rumor and speculation. There always has been on this case. It's I have to admit that once I talk on this case, I do get a lot of weird DMs with stuff, nothing ever really pans out. People like to speculate. People like to tag on to things. I would just say, like I always tell you guys, look for credible sources, articles, look for the people that are doing it regular, and then even double check them. Always look for a secondary source. Always look for something. I like to try to go back all the way to the legal documents and the evidence at the end. Right now, we're not in trial with this, so we can only talk about the hearings and the stuff that's going on, but that's what we're going to stick to. That's what happened in the hearing. Judge stuck to what she said in the last one. She assigned the public defenders. She did say, let us know if you change your attorneys. There is a requirement that they have to notify right away so that nothing gets delayed. And she made several dates for trial for status of trial conference, so they go together so they can start discovery, so they can bring their issues out. Those dates are all set for deadlines. The defense attorneys are actually filing for a motion to assign bail, saying he's not a flight risk, and they're doing a good argument. I'm sure there will be oral arguments, or at least the judge will be doing a ruling on that shortly, probably at the status conference, if it doesn't get asked for sooner. We're hoping that it gets done within the next couple of weeks. I believe the status conference is in 6 weeks, but I do believe that they were going to petition to have the bail hearing done, actually have a bail hearing as to what evidence you have against him, that he's a threat, you see, or a flight risk, which they had to do with Courtney Clenney. Remember, she had a bail hearing. Well, she was not successful. They determined she still was a flight risk, and she stayed in jail. But we'll see how this one goes. And, of course, we'll cover it when it comes up. Well, on that, okay. Yeah, I do, Cristola. I remember the Gabby Petito case, and I do remember a lot of the speculation that went on. Speculation can lead to certain paths, but, it can also be really damaging to the case. In the Gabby Petito case, it's solved, like what happened to her, but there's no trial, is there? A lot of what went on in the Gabby Petito case could have interfered with the prosecution, that's for sure. But in this case, there wasn't, any trial that they needed to worry about. Where's he going to run to? His publisher, probably Liam. I don't know. You're funny. Okay, the most credible source is Duane Davis. Yeah, that's unfortunate, isn't it? Like, he's his best witness against himself. It's not going to go well. I wonder if any gangsters ever set up 401ks for the future. I'm sure true mobsters do. They plan ahead, don't they? They're always wheeling and dealing, and they know how to take care of stuff. But that's mobsters. I don't know about gang members and stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't know if he was like really in it for that long. Like, I don't know how they do things. Who knows? They may have set him up for life, and then he just squandered the money. We don't know. Like, they're not going to give us the details. They keep it to themselves. Yep. Yeah, I can't even imagine many really rich gang members. Yeah. Mm. But it's a rough life, from what you see and hear. But what do I know? Only from the movies and from articles and stuff and books. I know exactly, Sleep. Like, there's a little bit of a difference there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Maybe he got the boot for maybe they did have something really like that would not be the popular thing to do, would it, Juju? She says maybe he got the boot for flapping his yap. I mean, I would think that that's not something they would understand. It kind of goes against everything, does it? If you're out there talking about what happened, like, it kind of goes against everything, you know. All right. All right. Let us move on then to, hey, remember him? Samuel Bankman Fried. Okay. Former CEO of FTX, charged with fraud. You may remember that FTX is also in bankruptcy. He has misappropriation and bribery charges on him. His three partners, two of his roommates, and his ex-girlfriend, all Alameda CEOs and officials at that board in working with him and living with him, all pled cooperation and testified against him at trial. He was on a $250 million bond. If you remember, he was on house arrest with his parents. And then there were additional charges waiting for in the Bahamas. Okay, there were 5 additional charges which he was not on trial for. His bail got revoked for witness tampering. He sent gave over his ex-girlfriend Caroline Fried, gave her diary over to a reporter to harass her. He was already in email contact with several of the ex-lawyers from FTX and his personal business, even after being instructed by the judge to not. He went on this self-imposed bread water diet because he didn't like the vegan food. There were tech issues that could have delayed the trial, but they didn't. Okay. And we had that trial just this past October. 15 days of trial we had. The ex-girlfriend Caroline came up and she testified to actually conferring with Samuel Bankman Fried on all transactions. Now, that's important because Samuel Bankman Fried's whole defense was that he didn't know what was going on between Alameda and FTX. Now, he owns both companies. He actually was proven by forensic accounting, and this one did him in. Forensic accounting investigators and witnesses for the win. A man took the stand and showed every transaction that Samuel Bankman Fried made in just 90 days. And he showed 4 companies. And let me just tell you, I don't have that graph, but it's in CoffeeZilla's video. And I'm going to drop you that link. If you are actually, I didn't want to bore you too much with this stuff. I know you guys aren't really into as much of the financial end of this as I was, but to me, that's where the legal precedence is on this. Check out CoffeeZilla's video and just get yourself a good chuckle, even if you just look for the graph. It looks like a spider web of lines from every company for everything, like all over the place. Well, here in America, you actually have to follow safe business practices, and you need to document things appropriately, and you need to disclose your interactions with companies that you own or don't own, okay, back and forth, and how you do it. He didn't do any of that, and he's just trying to pretend ignorance. And, well, here's a case of, again, ignorance is never a defense for breaking the law. Just because you didn't know it was illegal, although you really should have, you've been in finance your whole damn life, even though you knew, or you're saying you knew, that you didn't know, that's too bad. You did it. We proved it. Paper doesn't lie. Facts don't lie. Drawing the line, connecting the dots, it was hard to do, but it got done. There were investigators that did it. There was complaints. He tried to say that there was a floating amount of money from investors who had what they designated on their accounts as risk funds. In other words, he didn't have to follow the guaranteed whatever laws under certain investment protocols because they were labeled appropriately. But then he forgot that we're talking about $8 billion, and there weren't $8 billion worth of those accounts available at any given time. And the forensic accountant proved that too and knocked that defense right out of the water. He tried to get up there and say he didn't know what's going on with Almeida, that everybody else took care of it. But all 4 witnesses that were personal friends of his, including his ex-girlfriend, were able to actually show emails back and forth and actually give testimony of conversations they had all along about this stuff. He really took the stand and tried to defend himself, and he failed miserably. All he did was make more people not like him, to be honest. It was hard to listen to that testimony, the little snippets that we did, the things that he said, him actually coming out like he really didn't do anything wrong. We're all just looking at it wrong. Millions and billions of dollars were taken out of investors' accounts that trusted him. And he went and paid and bought passes to meet football stars and stuff, like really pretty bad. Okay. He paid off, he was investing into political campaigns to try to move some of the legislation on Bitcoin and stuff like that forward, to get hearings done, to actually become a voice out there for how things could be done. There's a lot of rumor as to that could have been the catalyst for why everybody just decided to start poking into his business and trying to bring him down. Because honestly, if that failed financial did not get disclosed on the day it hit a negative, he'd still be doing this because he didn't think he did anything wrong. Nope. He was found guilty after only 4.5 hours of deliberation. All 7 counts of fraud, okay, and taking those investors' monies and misappropriation of funds, poor business documentation, you name it, all of it. But he still has those 5 additional charges that they were waiting for the Bahamas to say that they could go forward with. And so instead of setting up in a really early sentencing date, the judge, allowing for sentencing briefs to be prepared and for the prosecution to decide if they were going to bring forward the other 5 charges and have another trial, sentencing has been scheduled for March of 2024. And I am so looking forward to actually getting that taken care of and find out if we're going to actually have additional charges filed. I mean, at 110 years, do they really have to put the money out to do more? I don't know. But maybe the prosecution wants a win. I'm not sure. I'm really not. So I also have another video from CoffeeZilla, because lately I've noticed that there's quite a bit going on with Bitcoin. All right. Ben Armstrong, some of you may know him as BitBoy. Okay. He was arrested a month ago. He's definitely facing charges in fines in prison if convicted. This was an article that I was looking at. This came from, Cointelegraph, which is like one of the, there's a YouTube video on a couple of other guys that CoffeeZilla was investigating. It's a short video, but if you're interested in this Bitcoin fraud stuff and how things are laying down now, people are being taken down for it. It's finally coming to fruition that they're starting to understand what is good and what is bad about it. He's charged with he was charged with loitering and prowling, and now they're looking at like other things about him. Okay, he was outside in a friend's house, a former associate's house actually, and he was actually filmed live streaming out there. in some type of harassment. And this was in Georgia, and they don't really mess around. They got some pretty strict laws about it. But yep, BitBoy's there. I want to see if anything. They said that he was simple assault could be anything like, he was going to commit an injury to the person or some other act, a reasonable apprehension. Somebody felt threatened by him in any way. But anyway, when he got out of jail, all he had to say was, "Hello, my name is Ben. I'm a loiterer. I did 8 hours in jail." Yeah. But I think there's more to be coming on this. You don't start attracting attention to yourself, like this and not have a problem. He's a pretty big investor. He's got like 360,000 followers. He's a trader of Emperor BTC and Bitcoin. He's pretty well known. I mean, he's got the name BitBoy Crypto brand. That's the brand that he controls in crypto. And I just want to see like what else. Just seems like crypto has been in the news a lot lately. The other video is about 3 guys getting arrested for fraud in a bad company that Coffeezilla was investigating on, and he's got the details on that video for you. One of them is still loose, but 2 of them have been arrested. So, all right. We will. Okay, hold on one second. I think I already gave you this one. The scammers get arrested, but just in case, here's the other video on that one. But that's about it for crypto. Unless you guys have some questions, let me look at my chat again. Another exchange is looking to buy FTX. What the hell do they think they'll be getting? SBF gutted it. He did. But here's the thing. One of the things, if you remember when SBF first got arrested and all the charges came for, he hit Twitter like fire. I mean, he was his own worst enemy. He was talking to everybody about everything. And one of the things he kept proclaiming over and over again in every single tweet, like all these tweet threads and all of these interviews with the media, was that FTX was solvent, that they were looking at it wrong, and that they needed to double check that a little bit. Well, according to the bankruptcy laws, on the day that this and that happened, they could adequately file for bankruptcy with what had happened. They did not have enough money there at the time to pay off a certain amount of debt. So, John Ray went forward and he absolutely filed the bankruptcy, and he's pulling them through. But he has recently, not recently, months ago, actually filed for the reorganization, which means they could still try to make money again. And they are actually in a position where they do have the clients, and they are making some money, and they are purchasable. How do you like that, Liam? A part of what Samuel Bankman Fried said was correct. Not all of it. It's not a defense, but part of it is true. It wasn't in such dire shapes that they first made it sound out. Did he defraud the company by misuse of the funds? Absolutely. But you see, the actual fraud of Samuel Bankman Fried was not just with FTX. It was in how everything was set up together and how he moved that money around. And it was between the dealings of Alameda in FTX and at FTX that actually did him in. The way he shuffled money back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. So there was money owed to FTX by Alameda. And if it had been properly recorded and reported that way, they would have had flush books. Isn't that the kicker? Like, that's the kicker right there. It was because they just didn't bother to document everything accordingly. However, Alameda was in no financial way to actually be able to pay it anyway. It would have been a bad debt, but that's not FTX's, it's going to down the road. There's still ways to cover it. So it was kind of a interesting hook and tidbit, at least for me. But I found this case to be extraordinary, and I can't wait for the sentencing. Yeah. It's only afloat because Trump got a bill passed to reduce the amount of liability and funds a bank needs to cover. What? You're right. There's a bit of truth in there too. Yes, he did. He did fluctuate 2 percentages on what the bank needs to cover for actual worth. And yes, he did. Okay. It is smoke and mirrors. I agree. It is all smoke and mirrors. Or in the end, we're going to watch FTX get bought by somebody and probably be a player in the market again. Who knows? I'm going to keep my eye on it. It's interesting. I'd like to see what some of the other financial people do, especially in crypto. I check out like CoinDesk a lot and stuff like that. People that are actually in crypto, writing about what's going on in crypto. Although you have to be careful because, you know, if they're in crypto, they're actually leaning towards creating the market at all times. That's the thing with, you know, finance and all of this. They are actually coveting the environment to make things profitable and to create markets. You know, keep that in mind as you're looking at all the articles and things like that. So, all right. This is moving right along. I got another one for you. Yeah, it's a trifecta tonight. We don't get to hear a lot about our next one, Miss Courtney Clenney, our OnlyFans model, Courtney Taylor, you know, made millions, yeah, up on second-degree murder for the arrested in December of 2022 for no bond at all on that hearing for the murder of her boyfriend, Christian Obemsuli. The defense is claiming they got new evidence of self-defense. Remember, we talked about the Obusemli family suit of wrongful death. We're going to have some update on that. And we also have that the building management prior had filed a motion to be removed from the family's civil suit. And that is part of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Okay, the hearings to compel happened on the 22nd. Status hearing happened on the October 5th, okay, and everything was moved forward to the hearing to motion to suppress evidence on November 16th, which is going to happen this week. We'll be talking about this week again. Now, Frank Prito and Sabrina Puglisi are the attorneys for Courtney Clenney. They've been making the scene. I'm going to drop you a few links, okay, for some interviews that they have been doing. They're awaiting the motion to suppress on recordings by Obemsuli because he actually, what the attorneys are saying in these interviews is that Christian Obemsuli actually set Courtney Clenney up repeatedly to be recorded in an agitated state. He would prod her, rough her up a little bit, get her going, get her all excited, and then record her without her knowing about it because where they are, it's two-party consent. So all of these videos that we've been seeing of her yelling at him, especially one by the pool and things like that, where they have conversations where you see him saying something and then you see her like yelling and whatever, they may not be admissible. Okay. She is actually planning a self-defense narrative of just being in a cycle of him revving her up. They're talking about gaslighting. They're talking about manipulation. They're talking about him being very controlling, which is the opposite of what his family is saying. Okay. And I understand that. So I'm going to play the other side of the coin too. I'm not saying, I'm just talking about what the defense is out there talking about in regards to this case with her. They literally are, just going on that it should not, it should not actually the recordings that we've all heard are not allowed, should not be allowed at all. And here is Frank Prito speaking on Court TV in regards to it. Okay, it was a very good article, a very good interview actually. He spoke well for his client. It's hard. We've heard evidence in the bail hearing in regards to how the knife was plunged. And I know we all go back to that. The actual coroner said it was impossible for her statement to be true. Based on the wound, based on the weapon, based on how far apart they were, there's something wrong with her statement. It could not have happened the way she said. And he went on trial, he went to the bail hearing and he said that, and she was denied bail. She was denied bail as being a flight risk because of her OnlyFans status. Even those accounts were closed, the judge's thing was, you can do that. You've got a successful following. You could start another account and you would have millions and you could be gone. Basically, she was a flight risk. Okay. Even though they proved she had no money currently, Her father was in control of things for her, etc. Well, basically, they thought it was too much. They kept her in jail. Okay. Now, there's a second part of this is the Obemsuli family's lawsuit. Okay. They have brought a wrongful death. They have brought a wrongful death case against the building itself that they live in, the security for that building. Okay. They are claiming that they had, between the police and the security and the building security, that they had more than 10 to 14 different occasions within that year that they were called in, that there was multiple complaints that were filed. Okay. And the latest is very, very upsetting, because they're saying that security called the police, didn't ask for an ambulance or emergency services of any type to put in a complaint about a disturbance that needed to be checked out. And basically they're saying that they stayed 12 minutes outside that door while he bled to death, that they could hear the scuffling inside. Courtney Clenney was at the time on 911 trying to get emergency services to where they live. And yet security could hear everything was going on and didn't call for an ambulance, didn't call for anything else. And so the civil suit is going to go on. This family is heartbroken. They think that there could have been intervention here that could have prevented him from dying. It was quite a tumultuous relationship. There's plenty of documentation for that. We've seen, we've seen videos of their relationship. It doesn't look like either one was very calm. Okay. This is Christian Obemsuli. Okay. And this is his family, who has brought forward the Haggard law firm. And they have a Facebook page if you want to check them out, that I will give you the link to. But the one making the rounds who represents him is Kimberly Wald. She did, let me just pull that out. In her statement, she talks about the length of time that actually it is the lawsuit for the building. Now, remember, the building management company that hires the security and everybody else, they wanted to be released from this thing. They didn't. But the one that got misnamed, that doesn't have anything to do with it. Remember, there was a third name that was applied on there, and there was a big ruckus because they have nothing to do with that building, and it was erroneously put on there. I believe they have been released. Okay. But that's Kimberly Wald, and she's speaking for the family, and they are very adamant about how this could have been prevented, or at least, maybe the assault couldn't have been prevented, but he may still be alive. You can hear him in several of the recordings, and if you look on Court TV and on Law and Crime, they have the recordings of Courtney Clenney speaking to the 911 person. And when she is, you can hear him in the background, and so they know he was alive for a good period of time. All right, and that's very, very very distressing to the family, because it's hard enough that he's in this relationship, they're out of control. They said that they weren't really keeping in contact him as well. He's supposed to be the light of their family. They're suffering such a loss, but then to know that the possibility that it could have been prevented, or he could still be here if somebody had done something, it has to be such heartbreak for them on top of heartbreak. Yes, that's it. The court did realize that. That's why she's in there. They did not close. OnlyFans. Her accounts were closed by OnlyFans when she was arrested. That's all. The court did not close the accounts that I'm aware of. The father was in charge of her finances after, and he helped her buy a house and some other things. Most of the money that she had put aside was dispersed to her needs. And they were trying to show during that bail hearing that she didn't have enough adequate cash to go anywhere, that she only had means to take care of herself. But the judge was like, yeah, but based on how she made the money in the first place, she could do it over again easily. So I know she does look completely different. Not made up, actually, without the hair and the nails and all of that. Her OnlyFans, she's a beautiful girl when she's done up. Not that she's not a beautiful girl anyway, but she does look totally different with her brown hair and with a little more weight on her and not made up at all. She does look a little bit different, but I'm gonna look for questions, but basically, I don't have much more on Clenney except for, like, with the family. I can understand why that's a civil lawsuit, so the burden of proof is a lot less there. They don't have to prove intent or anything else. Basically, just that the possibility that he could have had a life, but it looks pretty damning with their own discovery of them being outside of that door for 12 minutes waiting for the police to come while she was inside talking to 911, and you could hear him asking for help and them talking back and forth, and they're saying that they could hear everything. So if they could hear it on the recordings, I'm sure the people through the door could too. Yeah, OnlyFans did close her accounts. OnlyFans did close those accounts. A little. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to be nice, but it's not easy. It's not easy. Well, I don't know. When it comes to the Courtney Clenney case, I will be honest with you. I don't know what to believe, and I'm waiting for the evidence. The evidence that I heard in the bail hearing was a lot as far as what the coroner said. He sounded credible. I do believe his argument. I do think her statement that she gave to the police is going to be used against her because it couldn't have happened the way she said. Now, whether she was upset, whether she still goes forward with that when we get to the actual trial dates, I'm not sure. I'm hoping she doesn't, because if she stands her ground on it and they've got scientific evidence by the wound and all of those physics formulas record that you could throw out there for velocity and force and this and that, well, that's what the coroner was speaking of. That knife could not. She would have to be an expert knife thrower with a heck of a lot of strength and weight behind her to have it puncture the sternum the way it did. To have him bleed out the way that he did, to have it enter the way that it would be a fluke, a freak of nature. And pretty much the coroner laid it out that it was highly unlikely, if not probable, if not very improbable to happen the way she said. Didn't go with her. Again, we have someone in, granted, with all of this upset that's going on. I mean, he's bleeding, he's crying, she's trying to get help. They've had this huge fight. They're in a very tumultuous relationship. They're pushing each other around like crazy. Like, let's be honest, just the clips we saw, there was manipulation on both sides there. There was aggression on both sides there. It doesn't look like there was any calm at all anywhere there. And here they are in the middle of it. And I don't know if it was the best thing for her to give a statement. What do they tell you? Like, when you go up against the police like that, just shut up till your lawyer gets there. Don't say a damn thing. It doesn't mean you're guilty. It doesn't mean you're guilty. She called 911 while the people were outside the door. So she'll maybe not immediately, but she called 911 around the same time as they did with the altercations after the wound started. And she kept saying she was sorry and he was bleeding. And he said, I can't breathe, baby, and things like that. Or, and she did call 911. She was on the phone with them. During the 12 minutes, the security was outside the door. The lawyer is saying that they heard her, talking to them. And they heard how upsetting it was, and nobody came in. Nobody did anything. You should always ask for a lawyer, right, Cristola? Exactly. Like, be quiet, get your lawyer, and then don't say anything until after, like, because you don't even know what you're up against. I do believe it was a kitchen knife. So the needle point tip, I'm not sure, But and also for her to be throwing it over the counter that way, I don't know. But I remember I used to do streams with Jay, and he would say, if anybody ever gets even pulled in for questioning or arresting, before you say anything, know what it's all about. Get yourself a lawyer. Don't say a word. Everything can be used against you. And we're seeing that with Sarah Boone. We're seeing that with Courtney Clenney. You know, we're seeing that with Duane Davis. Everything he said in print and in interviews in public is being used against him. But yeah, get a lawyer and don't speak out. Now, we don't have all of the evidence out on Courtney Clenney, or even like if they get these tapes, if they get these recordings pulled back, it's going to be hard to show aggression, because the other recordings that they have from the security building show her complaining about Christian Obusemli being in front of her apartment door when he was no longer welcome there, about him stalking her. There's one where she's obviously like a little drunk, maybe, or altered in some way in the lobby or the foyer of the building, and you could see the security maintenance talking to her. She's asking them to send somebody. She's asking them to do something about it. And here's the thing. What's not going to go for them is the fact that they poo-pooed it like it was nothing. She said that they were separated. She said that he no longer lives there with her. He said that he was stalking her. And they laugh. And they like kind of like, yeah, push it off to the side. And they're like, yeah, you don't need to call it, whatever. Yeah, it'll be okay. They said, we can't get involved. We can't do anything about it. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do it. That's all going to go against him. Now the gentleman is gone. He's dead. Okay. She's up on charges of murder. And all of this video and audio recordings that were done for the security building are what's going to help the civil lawsuit. I don't know what they're going to play in the criminal lawsuit, but I would imagine the defense attorney would like to get a hold of them. And it seems like Kimberly Wald, who is working, that is the attorney for the families, for the Obusemli estate, for the family that is suing civilly against the building. And they're suing Courtney Clenney also, okay, in regards to this. But it looks like that evidence will be used for them as well. Now, as far as Frank Prito in Sharon Puglisi for the defense attorneys for the criminal case on Courtney Clenney, they're trying to get all the audio that was found on Christian Obusemli's phone, which was videos of her yelling at him. You see some from the pool. Some of those have been leaked, and you've seen them too, of her yelling aggressively at the pool because he's like saying something to her. They're saying that they should be pulled because it is a two-party state. She didn't consent to those recordings, and that she's going to testify to a history of him gaslighting and intimidating her and prodding her and getting her to a frenzy this way, and kind of like, working her up, so to speak. But that would not actually justify such violent actions. I mean, I don't know if that's going to go in her favor. It doesn't really carry a lot of weight for me. A lot of people would say, well, why don't you just walk away? Like, what you do about it is what you have to be accountable for. So, yeah, he might have been a jerk and he may have pushed her and this and that, but murder? No, I don't know. And there had to be some fight. And it's just the statement on how she says that knife got thrown that is really not in her best interest when you balance it with the coroner's statement. They just don't fit. So the coroner's statement on how it could happen and her statement on how it happened, they don't match. And that's a problem. It's going to go to credibility, and that's going to be up to the judge. Yeah. Don't ever fight in the kitchen where open knives are. Like, I agree with you. Yep. A kitchen knife is not balanced for throwing. Chances are that if it hit handle first, unless you are an expert at all. Exactly. That's what they're trying to say. It looks more like a plunge wound. Okay. Exactly. These recordings could be manipulated. You're right. If he only recorded her part of it and not his, it could look a different way, right, Christola? We all know that. You need the whole thing. Yeah. Hey, Cat Ninja. Nice to see you. Mousy says that she was just watching a case that happened in Chambly, Georgia. A 17-year-old was charged as an adult, and he made it worse because he couldn't stop talking. Oh, my goodness. He really, if he's going as an adult, needed to stop talking. Yep. There are too many weapons in the kitchen. Exactly. Yeah, let's see. I thought I was going to go long, but that wasn't too bad. That was an hour full of. You guys got questions on any of them? Tomorrow, I'm going to be back with Alex Murdaugh and the clerk. The clerk has spoken. Filings have been made. The prosecution has answered the claims by the defense on why all this should happen. We're going to talk about Judge Newman. We're going to talk about Becky Hill. We're going to talk about that defense team and the shenanigans that's going on. We're also going to talk about Stephen Smith. Stephen Smith, there's been, from what I understand, there's been a little bit of movement there, and I want to bring everybody up to date on that also. And if there's time, we got a little bit of news on Chad Daybell too. So I hope you all have a good night, and I actually hope to see you all tomorrow. Well, in the meantime, if you guys don't have any questions, I think I'm just going to put the outro on and be feet and wish you all a good night and see you later. Hey Juju, there's the question. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, what's up? The sky, the moon, the sky, planets. Never mind. I'm just being silly. I will check you all out later. Y'all have a great night, and thank you all for being here. I'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.